Where are your papers? Immigration check.
I'm an FBI intelligence analyst. I'm off duty and on my way home. My badge is in my backpack in the car. Sure, everyone says that. Show proof of legal status.
My name is Darius Cole, FBI Denver Field Office. Call my headquarters to verify.
We'll handle that at the processing center.
The Conoco gas station on Colfax Avenue was fairly busy when it all started. Tuesday morning, 9:12 a.m. Darius had just finished his overnight shift at the FBI, still in his casual clothes, gray hoodie, joggers, sneakers, nothing that would draw attention. He had just closed the gas cap when 3 ICE agents approached from a white SUV he hadn't noticed pulling in. The 3 ICE agents advanced in a tight formation, pressure directed straight at Darius. Their body cameras were already on, red lights flashing like warnings. What they were about to record would become one of the most expensive immigration checks the agency had ever faced. A woman nearby immediately pulled out her phone to film. A few others stopped to watch. No one knew who Darius was. They just saw 3 federal agents surrounding a black man who showed no sign of threat. Agent Turner led the approach. Morales and Shu fanned out on either side, forming a locking triangle as routine as breathing. The way they moved, cold eyes, no hesitation in their steps. Everything indicated they had already decided Darius was a problem to be handled. His analyst mind, trained to read behavior, clocked it instantly. The 3 ICE agents stood in front of him like they were facing a pre-identified target. Darius knew where this was going before Turner even opened his mouth. We're conducting a sweep for fraudulent documents in the area, present identification and proof of legal status. Turner's voice was flat, the bureaucratic tone of someone who had repeated the procedure thousands of times. Darius kept both hands visible and said clearly, "My wallet is in my front pocket. My federal badge is in the backpack in the car." Turner gave a slight nod but showed no sign of trust. "Do you have any ID on you right now?" The way he said it made it clear that no matter what Darius answered, the story in their heads was already set. He said, "I'm an analyst with the FBI Denver Field Office. If you call the office, they'll verify. We'll verify after we establish your identity and status." Turner replied, voice ice cold. That meant they were going to take him in, whether he wanted to or not. Morales shifted to the right, Shu to the left, the triangle tightening. Darius recognized it immediately. Encircling tactic used for someone who might run or resist. But he wasn't running. He stood in broad daylight, hands visible, trying to explain who he was. "My wallet is in my jacket pocket. Do you want me to get it?" Darius asked, voice steady even as the situation spiraled. He knew too well how quickly these stops could go sideways. Knew any movement could be interpreted as a threat. Slow, 2 fingers. No sudden moves, Turner ordered, his hand now firmly on his weapon. All 3 body cameras captured Darius slowly retrieving his wallet, every motion careful as if disarming an explosive device. He opened it, handed over his driver's license. Colorado, clear photo, valid address, all completely legal. Turner took it, glanced without interest and said, "This doesn't prove you have the right to be in this country. I need a passport, birth certificate, naturalization papers, anything confirming your lawful presence here." The words hit like a punch to the chest. Darius was born in Oakland, his father born in Oakland, his grandfather born in New Mexico when it was still a territory. His family had been American long before many of these federal agencies even existed. "I was born in Oakland. I'm a natural-born citizen. I work for the FBI Denver. My badge is in the car, a few steps away. Let me get it." "You're not going anywhere until we verify your status," Turner said, slipping Darius's license straight into his own pocket. An act that was technically seizure of property, but would later surely be described as securing evidence. "You'll have to come with us for processing and verification." "Processing?" Darius repeated. "You're detaining me? On what basis? What probable cause besides the color of my skin?" The question hung in the air. People around began to stop. Phones came out. Witnesses appeared in the familiar way whenever something felt wrong, but no one dared step in. A woman pumping gas 3 pumps away raised her phone to record. A man who had just stepped out of the convenience store froze, staring straight at them. Darius continued, voice even, speaking for the body cameras. "If I were a white man in a suit, would you be asking for proof of citizenship?" Turner glanced at Morales, then looked away from Darius. "Irrelevant. Very relevant," Darius replied, "because you still haven't provided any legal justification." Hutchins stepped closer, as if any small movement would give him an excuse to act. Morales cleared his throat, eyes showing clear discomfort. Turner looked around, then said curtly, "You fit the description." "What description?" Darius asked. Turner didn't answer. And in that moment, Darius knew this wasn't about the law, wasn't about any sweep. This was about the initial judgment they placed on him the second the car door opened. A script they had already written. Darius stood still, calm but unyielding, looking straight into Turner's body camera lens. He knew those devices weren't just recording a confrontation, they were recording the truth. A truth that would later cost this agency a figure no one could have imagined at the time. $14.7 million. Turner changed expression. No more probing or initial suspicion. Now just the command of someone who had assumed the authority to decide. Turn around. Hands behind your back. You're being detained for verification. The words came out dry and matter-of-fact, as if detaining a citizen standing peacefully at a gas station was routine. Morales immediately shifted right. Hutchinson closed in left. The space behind Darius was locked. The triangle formation, standard procedure for enforcement, was established without another word. Darius tilted his head slightly, not in resistance but to ensure all three body cameras were pointed at him. I'm not resisting, he said clearly. I'm complying. I am a U.S. citizen and a federal employee. What you're doing violates the Fourth Amendment. He spoke deliberately slow so every word landed on the lenses. But Turner didn't care. He lifted his radio, voice flat as someone used to falsifying reports. Subject is resisting orders. Proceed with restraint. The statement ended any dialogue. Morales grabbed Darius's right wrist. Hutchinson locked the left. They pulled in opposite directions, forcing his body to turn. Darius made no movement that could be misconstrued. I'm not resisting, he repeated, this time directly into Turner's body camera. I'm being unlawfully detained. Record this. And it was recorded. From 3 different angles. The people at the gas station, those just there to fill up or buy coffee, suddenly became witnesses. A young man at the pump behind shouted, he didn't do anything. A woman live streaming raised her phone, voice shaking but angry. This is blatant racial profiling. A man leaning against his car door stared without blinking. Whispers scattered across the lot, all merging into one unspoken question. Why is a man standing still, showing no threat, being treated like a criminal? Morales twisted Darius's wrist back harder than necessary. Metal clamped down, immediately leaving red marks. Darius tilted his head slightly, not dodging but making sure the camera captured his full face. I'm not angry at you, he said quietly, but loud enough for all 3 body cameras. I'm just disappointed you won't verify. Morales hesitated for a split second. Then he tightened harder to cover it. Turner stayed silent, eyes cold, as if the words weren't aimed at him. But they were aimed at all of them, at the system that created this kind of power, making people believe they could arbitrarily decide who belongs in this country and who doesn't. Hutchu held Darius's shoulder firmly, pushing him toward the SUV. Watch your head, Hutchu said, but his hand pressed harder than necessary on Darius's neck. The camera captured it all, the way he was forced to bend, the way his body was twisted, the way his legs were pushed into the vehicle like he had no choice. When his back hit the rear seat, door still open, Morales lifted Darius's backpack, the one containing the FBI badge that could have ended the misunderstanding in 30 seconds, and tossed it onto the front seat without checking. A small act that said more than any words. They didn't want to verify. They wanted to detain. Hutchu closed the rear door, the soundproofing nearly isolating Darius from the outside world, but he could see the red flashing lights of the body cameras through the crack. They were still recording. He said, you will regret watching this footage. Not a threat, just a prediction, a truth he knew would eventually expose everything. Turner got behind the wheel, Morales in the passenger seat, Hutchu beside Darius in the back. The SUV engine roared. The vehicle backed out of the gas station in tense silence. Outside, people kept filming. A few shouted for ICE to release him. A woman said into her live stream, he asked them to verify. They wouldn't even call. Those words, along with the 3 body cameras and dozens of phone videos, would become something no edited ICE report could erase. As the car turned off Colfax Avenue, Darius leaned his head back, thinking about the greatest irony of that morning hours earlier. He had written a report that helped ICE catch document forgers. Now ICE was forcing him to prove his right to exist. In the very moment they decided to treat him as someone who didn't belong. The moment captured from 3 angles would make them pay in federal court. The white SUV carrying Darius pulled up at the ICE Denver field office on Cayley Avenue. Hutchu pulled him out, opened the side door, and led him through 2 security checkpoints. They took him into a cold room with bare white walls, a metal chair bolted to the floor, a camera in the corner with a red light staring down like it was waiting for him to air. The door slammed shut behind him. Darius sat down, wrists still throbbing from the cuffs. No officer present. A space designed to make a person feel small. He refused to let his mind spiral into anger. His mother's words, a phrase she repeated when he was young, flickered through. Kindness is your strength, especially when others treat you the worst. An hour passed, then another. No one came. Muffled sounds from the hallway. Military boots on the floor. Metal doors opening and closing. The hum of a photocopier were indifferent reminders that the bureaucratic machine was running normally, while he was forgotten in the middle of it. When the door finally burst open, he looked up. A middle-aged man in an ice jacket. Name tag Reynolds. Behind him was Turner. Reynolds used a neutral tone. Neither goodwill nor remorse. We verified your employment information. You can go. Darius looked straight at him. You know I said that 6 times at the gas station, right? Reynolds didn't answer right away. He glanced at Turner before replying with the familiar line agencies use to dodge accountability. Procedure. Just 2 words, but enough to wipe away the entire humiliation they caused. Darius stood up, wrists red-marked, voice still soft but edged with steel. Your procedure is to detain a federal citizen for 2 hours without letting him make 1 phone call? Reynolds didn't answer. He avoided Darius's eyes, then repeated as if rehearsed, you're released. We'll take you back to your vehicle. No admission of wrongdoing. No official acknowledgement that they had wrongly detained a federal employee in the very city he served. Turner and Morales stepped back to clear the way, as if wanting to end his presence as quickly as possible. Darius walked down the hallway, hearing the interrogation room door close behind him, but he knew what was really locked in there wasn't him. It was the truth they tried to bury, and it wouldn't stay quiet for long. Darius left the ICE headquarters, requested to be taken back to the gas station to retrieve his car, then drove straight to the FBI Denver field office. ASAC Lorraine Bennett was in the conference room when she saw him walk in, still in his hoodie, eyes shadowed from being up all night, but his demeanor hardened in a way she had never seen. What happened to you? Bennett asked. Darius told her everything. The approach, the demand for papers, the refusal to verify, the handcuffs, 2 hours in custody, released without apology. Bennett stood up midway, phone already in hand. No, this isn't a mistake. This is blatant civil rights violation. She didn't ask anyone's permission. She called the DOJ Office of Civil Rights directly and reported the incident. Within an hour, Darius was connected to civil rights attorney Marshall Tate, who had won numerous cases against federal agency overreach. Tate didn't beat around the bush. Just one question. Are you ready to go all the way? If I don't, others will keep being treated this way. Darius replied. So yes, I'm ready. Tate began requesting evidence, and the evidence was overwhelming. 3 body cameras from Turner, Morales, and Shu. CCTV at Conoco capturing the entire ICE approach without cause. Live streams from civilians, clearer angles than the body cameras. GPS data confirming when Darius left the FBI after his shift. Duty rosters proving he had just assisted ICE in a document forgery bust. Even ICE records showed he had supported their operations 3 months earlier. All of it came together into an undeniable picture. ICE detained a federal employee, a U.S. citizen, with no probable cause without following procedure, and deliberately ignored on-scene verification. 4 weeks later, ICE sent their first settlement offer, $90,000. Tate placed the offer on the table and looked at Darius. He just gave a small laugh, not from satisfaction but from the insulting nature of the number. He shook his head. No. 2 weeks later, ICE raised it to $400,000, calling it good faith cooperation. Tate didn't negotiate. He simply read back what Darius had said in their first meeting. You said you weren't doing this for yourself. Darius nodded. I'm not doing this for me. I'm doing this for the people who don't have body cameras to prove the truth. Tate closed the file. Then we sue. And from that moment, the legal battle officially began. The federal courthouse in Colorado was packed from 8 a.m. Hallways echoed with the footsteps of reporters, lawyers, local Black community members, and even federal employees there to support Darius. Every seat in the gallery was taken. Some people stood against the walls, arms crossed, waiting for the moment the truth would be presented under courtroom lights. When the judge entered, the room quieted to just the rustle of papers. Tate opened by requesting the synchronized playback of all 3 body cameras. Turner, Morales, and Shu on 3 large screens. The pale blue glow of the video lit every face in the room. Scenes of Darius standing calmly at the gas station, hands visible, speaking clearly. Scenes of Turner ignoring requests for verification. Scenes of Morales arbitrarily taking the wallet. scenes of food closing in without any legal justification. And then the moment that made the entire courtroom hold its breath. Turner saying the line everyone would later repeat as irrefutable evidence. He fits the demographic risk profile. A statement light as air but landing in the courtroom heavy as stone. Tate rose, walked slowly to Turner during cross-examination. The demographic profile you mentioned, Tate asked. What criteria is it based on? Turner swallowed. Certain characteristics. Which characteristics? Turner didn't answer. Tate stepped closer. Was the only characteristic you had in hand the color of my client's skin? The room felt stretched taut. Turner couldn't lift his head. The silence was the answer. Darius was called to the witness stand. Over 8 hours across 2 days, he described his work at the FBI. The cases he had helped ICE with, some lasting weeks, staying up all night analyzing data just to help the very agency catch document forgers. He recounted that morning how he said at least 6 times that he was a federal employee, how he stood still, cooperated, tried to explain while being treated like an intruder. And then he said the sentence that made the entire jury look straight at him. I don't hate them. I just wish they would treat me like a human being. A female juror raised her hand to her mouth, tears falling as Darius described the feeling of being cuffed in front of the very citizens he had sworn to protect. Tate ended his questioning with one line. My client didn't ask for special treatment. He only asked for legal treatment. When it was ICE's turn, their lawyer tried to argue the agents acted on reasonable suspicion. But 4 hours later, Tate dismantled it with a single video. The CCTV showing Turner looking at Darius for less than 2 seconds before deciding to approach. 2 seconds, Tate said. Eyes on the jury. 2 seconds to decide that an American citizen in a gray hoodie doesn't belong in this country. After 4 days of arguments, the jury began deliberations. It took only 6 hours for them to return. The foreperson, a middle-aged man with a stern face, stood and read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. No murmur. Just absolute silence before the weight of truth just acknowledged. Next came damages. Tate presented psychological harm, loss of dignity, professional injury, and long-term impact of unlawful detention on a federal employee. ICE tried to argue for lower compensation, but the jury didn't budge. When the final number was read, the courtroom nearly held its breath. Total damages $14.7 million, of which $9.1 million for direct damages, and $5.6 million for punitive damages. Turner bowed his head. Morales closed his eyes. Kishu looked down at his hands, as if only now understanding the meaning of every action captured on body camera. As for Darius, he just exhaled, a long breath from someone finally recognized with the dignity he deserved. The courtroom stayed silent a few more seconds before the first applause broke out. A woman from the back row stood up, then another. Then the entire courtroom rose. Not for the money, but because the truth had finally been spoken aloud, and because one black man had proven that truth, when recorded from 3 camera angles, could defeat an entire machine trying to bury it. The $14.7 million verdict didn't end the story. It was only the beginning of the widespread consequences ICE was forced to face. Less than a month after the ruling, Turner was demoted to an administrative position, no longer allowed on any field assignments. Morales was reassigned to record storage, a job with no human contact. Hutju was suspended for 6 months for operational reevaluation. And Reynolds, the one who looked Darius in the eye and said procedure, was transferred to an internal office in Kansas, far from any hotspots where his presence could no longer endanger anyone. The Department of Homeland Security couldn't escape the public backlash. The viral videos, investigative articles, and hashtags about the case forced DHS to do what they had refused for years: change on-scene identity verification procedures. And most importantly, every encounter must now include an immediate identity check, if the citizen requests it. Small changes on paper, but a turning point for those who had once been rendered invisible in the enforcement system. For Darius, the trial wasn't just about reclaiming his honor. It opened a new path he hadn't anticipated. From the settlement, he founded the Cole Foundation for Constitutional Kindness. First goal, empower Black youth to know their rights when interacting with law enforcement. Second goal, provide free legal counsel for legal immigrants profiled and wrongly detained. Third goal, organize workshops in schools, libraries, community centers, teaching about the Fourth Amendment, transparency, and how cameras can save lives. Kindness isn't just a value, Darius said at the foundation's launch. It's a skill, a strategy, a way to survive in a system not built to protect us all. 3 months after the trial, As Darius prepared to leave the foundation office, a woman approached. He recognized her immediately. She was the one who live-streamed the entire incident at the gas station that morning. "I want to thank you," she said. "You stayed kind to them, even when they weren't kind to you. Because of that, we saw the truth." Darius didn't answer right away. He looked at her and nodded. A nod from someone who understood that sometimes kindness isn't about changing the hearts of the wrongdoers, but about giving tools to those who are watching. When she left, Darius stood by the window, looking down at the street. Denver was still noisy, still full of cars, still people passing each other without knowing another's pain or fight. But somewhere boys and girls would grow up knowing their rights. Immigrants would know they aren't alone. Cameras would turn on at the exact moment truth needed to be recorded. And he knew, slowly with difficulty, the system could still change. It just needed someone to start. And the story ends with an undeniable truth. In a country where a black FBI agent can still be asked for papers, kindness isn't weakness. It is the power to change an entire system. If you believe stories like this need to be brought to light, please hit subscribe so you don't miss the next ones. Thank you for following. See you in the next story.